And welcome back, everyone, to another edition of the Sports Frenzy podcast. Phil Penarski here alongside our News 8 sports correspondents, Dean Holsworth and Andy McDonald. It's going to be a little bit of a different episode this time around because we actually have some good news to finally talk about. Some Michigan teams getting back in the winning column, and that's where we want to begin today's conversation. Of course, talking about the Detroit Lions, who had a pretty seismic win, I would say, on Monday night against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Two teams battling it out for really the top seed in the NFC right now, and the Lions came out victorious. Now moving on to 5-2 on the year. Guys, initial thoughts from that game. Again, a lot was being discussed just about how great Tampa Bay's offense looked versus very much depleted Lions secondary.
Yeah, definitely. By the way, Phil, good word, seismic.
Yes.
I like that word. It was a pretty big win. You know, I think there was a lot of doubters last night if the Lions could beat a good Tampa Bay offense with, like you said, the depleted secondary that they had and a bunch of guys coming, off the practice squad and off the streets to kind of fill in. But, I was so impressed with the job that they did. 9 points to a really good Tampa Bay offense was great. They got an interception, forced a fumble, did all the little things. So I think it just kind of continues to show the depth that Brad Holmes always is bringing in to help this team when, other, problems arise, they can just plug people in and get the same result. So super impressed. A little concerned about the offense. They struggled at times, but obviously Jahmyr Gibbs had a great game. So really, really big win going into the bye and looking forward to what they can do now after the bye.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, the Legion of whom? Is that what everybody's saying? The secondary there. Nobody knows. I mean, seriously, they were pulling some guys out last night that I've definitely never heard of before in my life, and they found a way to get it done. What I will say about that game is that I don't think Baker Mayfield has looked that off in like 2 years, probably playing in a football game. He just overthrew a lot of people, and I definitely think that helped because it's awesome that these guys stepped in and played that well. You definitely want guys to get healthy, though. I don't think it should be like a decoy to the fact that they still need to hopefully get some of their guys healthy in the secondary. But that's the thing, like, you can find things to complain about on offense and whatever you want, but they won this game 24-9. They still won by 15 points. Like, it just feels like there's still so much room for them to be better, and they're winning by double digits. So it's just, again, it was still a staple win because even though the Bucs had a lot of their receivers gone, obviously losing Mike Evans, that was kind of a scary injury there. Right. And that definitely affected him. But Ibuka, he had 4 targets last night, and 3 of them were broken up going his way. So it was just kind of unreal what the Lions secondary was able to do. Obviously, their pass rush did a great job. Ali McNeil coming back was big. He was able to get some pressure inside even. And Jack Campbell had a great game last night, just flying all over the field. He's really coming along here in his second year. So the defense definitely felt like the highlight last night. And then also Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, where would this team be without that guy? Holy smokes. I mean, last night he just was phenomenal all over the field, doing everything right. The 70-something yard touchdown run.
Yep,
just
78.
Yeah, it's huge. Like, they needed that. And they averaged 5 yards a carry, even in a game where it felt like their line may not have played. Obviously, that big run has a lot to do with that, but it still counts. It did happen. So, and then Amon-Ra earlier with the touchdown. It felt like they left so many points in the field, but yet they still controlled that game from start to finish. And again, Jack Fox had that one punt on his goal line where he pushed them all the way back to like their own 20. That's the kind of stuff this team has had that when they need to win and they have a loss or something, they bounce back and they find a way to do it, and they can do it in so many different ways that it makes them a great team. And I think last night it's huge either way, no matter what the injuries were, the situation was. This could be a game for seeding at the top of the NFC towards the end of the year because I think the Bucs will still be a good team, especially as they get healthier. So it was definitely a huge win last night. Impressive for the Lions.
And I think, again, we can't understate just how massive this was from the defensive side of the field. Again, the offense, maybe clean up a few things here and there. I'm sure Dan Campbell will be the first person to tell you that. But on the defensive side, I don't think you could, if you had walked in or had said before Monday night that Tampa Bay was only going to score 9 points, I don't think a single soul would believe you. Maybe they would have thought the Lions could win, but only giving up 9 points. I mean, this is a Tampa Bay team that's scoring 30, 40 points every single game, it seems like. They're always in these shootouts, and just knowing that the Lions could kind of rest on some of these backups to actually get some playing time and stop this high-powered offense. I mean, just, again, can't understate just how massive this was for the defense.
Yeah, it was great, and they shouldn't have given up any points in the first half. Goff threw the interception there and gave them kind of a free 3 points at the end of the half. And then Tampa Bay comes out and scores a touchdown there to start the third quarter. But then, they locked down and just played really solid. So, one of the most impressive things to me is kind of with this Lions team is, haven't had back-to-back losses since 2022, which is pretty amazing, right, for them to to be able to bounce back every time. And then 17 straight games where they've led going to the fourth quarter and they've won. So, it's not the same old Lions. I just remember, I mean, I've been around longer than these guys, but like I remember sitting there just knowing that the worst was going to come, like on a final drive by another team, because the Lions would be in their prevent defense, and they just go down the field and either score a touchdown or a field goal to beat the Lions and break my heart. So, like, I experienced that for so many years. But now it's like fourth quarter lead, trust in Dan Campbell, trust in, the guys out there, and they're going to get the job done.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, that's my entire lifetime spent the same way. I mean, 0-16, everything else, like to get a coach and a coaching staff that you just have so much confidence in. Some of those challenge flags I questioned a little bit last night from Dan Campbell. I don't know how that one. Maybe New York.
The second one was.
Maybe New York was like, this is going to work out a little bit more in the Lions' favor after what happened the other night, because some of those calls were just questionable. But yeah, I mean, nevertheless, what they were able to do on defense was phenomenal. It was so impressive. But again, I just got to hammer it home. I mean, Eric Hallett, he led the team.
Millett, I think.
No, there's a Eric Hallett who led the team in tackles. Arthur Millett, that was the guy you were talking about. He was back there in the secondary. Yeah. He was top 3 in tackles in the team. Rock Ya-Sin, obviously he's played a little bit, but he kind of came out of nowhere. Tyrus Wheat, I don't think any of us have ever heard of him before.
He
last
had the
night.
sacks last trip.
So, the fact that we're talking about this and they're winning with these kind of players.
Yeah.
This
Whitehead. Was it Whitehead or Whiteside?
It was Whiteside.
Whiteside
did
the
second,
great,
of course. Don't forget that.
He did a great job.
Yeah, these guys that they're pulling out and playing, like the Lions teams of old when I was growing up, they had plenty of people that you've never heard of before, but like they didn't win with them. They were actually bad. It's like when the fact that they can put it, obviously the Lions front seven did a great job last night of putting pressure on Baker. And again, I'm going to hammer it home. Baker was off last night. I do think that if this secondary goes up against some of these quarterbacks they're about to play, they're not going to do this well. But it doesn't matter what they were able to do last night. It was super impressive, and that's a lot because of their coaching staff. And Kelvin Shepard deserves so much credit for what he's been able to do. I'm not ready to say that he's better than Aaron Glenn yet at all, or anything. It's still too small of a sample size, and obviously things haven't went well for Glenn, so it's super easy for us to make a quick comparison. But what's happening in New York has nothing to do with what's happening in Detroit right now. I think that Aaron Glenn was great, and Kelvin Shepard was the right hire to hire off of him. From the past years, so he deserves a lot of praise right now for the way that defense is playing. 'Cause it's not easy to get a bunch of guys again that you've never heard of to go into a game like that. That's huge on a Monday night when you're coming off a loss to play that well. It's really, really impressive they were able to do that.
Yeah, I love Kelvin Shepard's energy.
It's awesome. I mean,
I love it. It's Dan Campbell energy. It's like that whole thing, but like yes,
exactly. Again, that's my one complaint from last night. If I had Dan Campbell energy, I think those challenge flags. That can't be happening in big games, but it's still, he finds a way to win. He sticks to his guns. You're going to live and die with that if you're a Lions fan. It's just the way that it goes.
Absolutely. And again, a huge win, because if Detroit did lose that game, I mean, they're going to be going into the bye week at 4-3. Now sitting at 5-2. They joined 5 other teams in the NFC right now. Again, the Lions do have that bye week, but looking at the rest of those teams that are at 5-2, you've got the Philadelphia Eagles, who have had their struggles. Again, kind of had a really great game on Sunday, but then you look at the rest of it, you've got the Buccaneers that just lost and are also dealing with a lot of injuries right now. And then the NFC West has 3 teams at 5-2 right now. But I know the answer to this, guys, but are we still with the Lions being the favorites in the NFC just after what we've seen so far this season, and still dealing with these injuries, but still a top team in the NFC, still tied with the best record?
Yeah, I mean, I know I'm a diehard Lions fan, right? So you're going to get this answer from me, but yes, like right now they're the best team in the NFC. And if I look at any teams on their schedule right now, like they don't necessarily scare me. Just watching how inconsistent some of these teams have been, and the Lions have been pretty consistent up to this part. So I feel like they definitely are the best team in the NFC, and definitely have a chance to be that way at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'd said the same sentiment from a couple of weeks ago. I believe right now that win last night over a 5-1 team, the Bucs have been playing banged up for weeks now. Like they've had people out, and the Lions were still able to get a win where they held them under 10 points. That's impressive no matter how it happened. Right now they seem like the best team. I just don't think there's a big separation right now. I think there's a lot of teams at the top of the NFC that are very, very similar. It just doesn't seem like there's a team that's really running away with it in the NFL.
Yeah, there's not that elite team right now.
Yeah, it's just not. It doesn't really exist. I mean, I said it before the Lions played the Chiefs. The Chiefs are starting to look like the Chiefs again. They're starting to look a little scary to me. So that's another team that I would say is ascending towards the top. But it's hard to argue right now with what the Lions have been able to do and the teams that they've played. They still have more tough games coming up. It's crazy when you look at I mean, how many times do we talk about their schedule coming into the season?
Yep.
When you look at what's coming up, all of a sudden these teams have like losing records that are around 500. It's so crazy how the NFL works. Everybody's kind of eats everybody alive right now, and they still have some big games in front of them. Obviously, that game against Sunday Night Football with the Eagles is going to be something to watch. So they have more chances to prove it, but to us, I feel like they have already proved it. Maybe the rest of the world they need to still, but it seems like a lot of people have at least bought into the fact that the Lions are one of the big dogs at the table. That's for sure.
Yep.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of the Eagles, I have a kind of a fun question for you guys. Knowing that the Eagles are kind of dealing with some injuries themselves, Brandon Graham announced that he was coming out of retirement to join the Eagles for this season, kind of help them out a little bit. Lions definitely dealing with some injuries, but despite injuries, let's say everybody was healthy. Is there anybody maybe in the past couple of years or maybe in Lions history that you would love to see maybe come out of retirement and help out this team a little bit? Any guys that you think would fit in perfectly with maybe what they're doing on the offensive side or the defensive side of the ball?
Gosh, that's such a tough thing. I mean, like, obviously Kelvin Johnson, right?
That would be great.
No, I don't know. And I just try to think of like players on defense. I mean, I think Levy's still playing, so I can't say that. But DeAndre Levy was always one of my favorites growing up, I guess, at linebacker. I still feel like they need maybe a little bit of help in that area, but yeah, it's hard to say. This generation of Lions seems to be so much better than the past that it's hard to make that argument. But it's funny you mentioned Brandon Graham. He was at Michigan on Saturday when I was there.
Really?
Yeah,
nice.
and they were like honoring him on the field. They were like, this guy needs no introduction. And then you sent us that text that he's coming out of retirement. I'm like, that's kind of crazy. I just saw him on Saturday. So good for him. He's a great player. He's one of the ones like when I first started liking football growing up, I remember him playing. So it's awesome to see.
I should know this. Is Darius Slay with somebody right now?
Yeah, he is.
Okay.
I'm trying to
say Darius Slay because I really like him.
I believe he's with Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
Steelers.
yeah, for sure. He is. Yep.
Yeah. I would say Chris Spielman. Bring Chris Spielman back at every time.
Oh, that'd be great.
Man, he was just a hard nose. Like he's Jack Campbell a little bit. Like
Right.
Jack Campbell's got that little moxie and that little toughness like Chris Spielman had. I love watching Spielman play though.
I guess if you had asked me, like I said, Kelvin, it's just like if I could replace J-Mo with Kelvin, I probably would. That'd be like I mean, obviously you would. So that's like the one thing, but it's like you could say Barry Sanders, but like the running backs are so good in Detroit right now. I really don't know if I'd want to mess that up.
Yeah.
Quarterbacks, not in my lifetime. That's
Scott
for sure.
Mitchell, bring back Scott Mitchell.
Matt Stafford's
I
not
could
retired.
go through the list.
I would. I mean,
Bring John Kitna
quarterbacks.
back.
Exactly. Yeah, John Kidd, Joey Harrington. That's
Joey Harrington.
All right. Well, again, just a little fun question for you guys. But again, let's focus now on something else to look forward to happening later tonight. Of course, it is the return of Detroit basketball. The Pistons are going to be back in action. They'll be in Chicago, taking on the Chicago Bulls in that first game of the season. A lot has been talked about with the Pistons, especially considering the scope of the Eastern Conference. You've got the Boston Celtics without Jason Tatum for the year. You've got the Indiana Pacers coming off a finals run without Tyrese Halliburton for the year. Injuries all over some of the top teams. Pistons looking like a team that could make that stride, potentially making a deep playoff run with the season kicking off tonight. I got to ask you guys, what is sort of the ceiling? I mean, is there too much pressure on these Pistons, or really do we see the Pistons making that playoff run? Are they poised for a deep playoff run this time around?
Yeah, it's a super tough team to predict just because of what happened last year. Obviously, that was like the biggest turnaround in NBA history, what they were able to do. So it's crazy they were able to go from they're 0-29 at one point to what they did last year. So it's pretty crazy to see. I think the most interesting part for me is obviously losing a couple guys, and then Duncan Robinson and Karis LeVert were two bigger adds that they had kind of this offseason. It's going to be interesting to see how they fit into the system. And then Jaden Ivey being out for a month here to kind of start the year, that's also a big downer to start because he's probably going to be trying to play catch up for a lot of the season until it gets later. So I do believe the Pistons can do it, though, because I think Cade Cunningham can take that next step. I think that's really going to be the biggest question for the Pistons is, can he be I think he's a star. I think everybody can agree with the stats that he puts up. Absolutely. He's a star, but can he be a superstar? Can he carry a team pretty much playing by himself to, get to I don't know, what Luka did with the Mavs or something like that, where you can take that team to the next level and get them to the finals at least. And I don't know if it's going to be this year for that or if we're already at that point, but it's definitely something to look for this year with the team. And then obviously Jalen Duren, he's a big piece of this team. Can he stay out of foul trouble, stay on the floor more? There's so many questions going into it, but I do believe the Pistons will be a playoff team again. I can't imagine that they would have a drop off from last year. I mean, they seem so focused. Obviously, Langdon, when he talked to the media, kind of said that this team might have overachieved a little bit last year. I kind of like how he acknowledged that, because it's hard to, if you were to just say that you expected that coming into the season. I mean, him and Tom Gores are both in agreement with that.
Yeah.
But they still, that doesn't mean they don't want to be excited about what this year could be, because they have some other guys that are younger, like Ron Holland, that can make a jump and get better. So it'll be exciting to see what they can do. I do believe they'll be right in the mix, though, especially with all the injuries that you just mentioned, Phil.
Yeah, definitely. I think they're going to kind of build off what they did last year, right? If you guys noticed, like Cade in the preseason, he has been absolutely spectacular. Like he had 26 points in the first half, I think last week against, I forget who it was. So like, I think his game's going to elevate. I think the Pistons need his leadership this year. Obviously, he's still kind of young, but there's a lot of young guys around him. So if he can kind of take the reins of the leadership role and continue to do what he's doing on the court, I think the Pistons are going to be fine. I see them as, the hope, I think, would be a top 4 seed. Get a home court advantage in the playoffs. But to me, the ceiling's pretty high for this team. Excuse me, Jalen Duren's. I mean, these guys have all been in the weight room. They're a lot bigger, they're a lot stronger, a lot faster. So like, I think you're going to see a jump in wins, and you're going to see a better playoff position at the end of the year.
Yeah, no, AJ Evans and I, as part of our NBA podcast here on Wood TV Plus, we went over some of our predictions for the East. I had the Pistons as the 4th seed, and AJ actually put them as the 3 seed. You guys, kind of feel that similar expectations for Detroit. I mean, could they really be a top 4 seed? I mean, again, Andy touched on it. Just a couple years ago, this was one, if not the worst team in NBA history, and now look at them. We're talking about them making a deep playoff run.
Well, that's like where you got to go to that comparison sometimes, like kind of with the Tigers, what just kind of happened. I think this past year where they had like this, going back to the year where they made the playoffs, they kind of carried into the next season. They were that good, and then all of a sudden they lost how many games to blow the division lead, and it kind of was like that may like happen to a certain extent this year, but I just don't. This is the year for the Pistons to kind of make that jump with everything you mentioned, Phil. I mean, it was just people being out. It's like they didn't even really have to like spend a bunch of money or go get a bunch of guys that could play with some other superstar or whatever. Yep. They already kind of have this advantage built in with people that are out, and they're motivated. I think they made that clear with how they talked about it won't happen again if they get to the next series. Like if they get to that kind of series where they felt like they could have won it and a couple of things went wrong at the end of games there where they didn't win it, they were pretty motivated to get back and make sure that doesn't happen again. So I love the direction of this team. I love the coaching staff on this team. I think that they'll be locked in and ready to go this year. And I think those players are still going to gel and be motivated together. Yeah,
definitely motivated from last year, right? The losses, they probably should have beat the Knicks last year in the series. You and I were at one of the last games that they played, and they should have won that game. But no, and I think a lot of it starts if you guys look at the Detroit teams now, like it's from above, right? Like you look at what Trajan Landon has done. Look at JB Bickerstaff. Like good coaching can go a long way, and I don't think people realize that enough, especially general manager, things like that. So I think we are very lucky in Detroit to have some really good coaches right now and very good front office who are helping build these franchises.
Yeah, Bickerstaff's the right guy for this job.
He 100%
I think
is.
It's like that's what the Pistons need in that locker room is somebody like that. Because that. I mean, the reality is we're probably not going to go out and buy a Kevin Durant caliber player, right? So when you have like a superstar, that possibility in your presence that can be good enough, I like how they're making everybody work around him right now, and it seems really good. So I trust Bickerstaff with that group. Again, it's a tough job in the NBA, like to keep players motivated. After a year where like you had that much success, people start to think about their contracts and where the next money's going to come from too. And it's really, really hard to keep that continuity. We'll see if they're able to do it, but I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I'm just super excited that basketball's back, and kind of like what you guys were saying. I mean, you have the superstar in Cade. You just surround him by guys that make him better and that he can make better. And I really like that Duncan Robinson and Karis LeVert signings out in the offseason and keeping a bunch of those guys. So again, very excited about the Pistons this upcoming year. And as a reminder to everybody, you can always stay up to date on everything Pistons related and NBA related by checking out MB8 right here on Wood TV Plus. Had to throw in that plug for the other podcast there.
I'm joining. I'm enjoying that a little bit.
Absolutely. All right, we'll go back to the gridiron now because we have some college football to talk about now. We've got 2 major rivalries happening this weekend in the state of Michigan. Let's start off with the big Division I matchup, that being the Michigan Wolverines heading to East Lansing to take on the Michigan State Spartans. The Wolverines coming off a 24-7 victory over the Washington Huskies, a big-time win to kind of get their season back on track. And the Michigan State Spartans lost their 4th game in a row, this time to Indiana. They fell 38-13. They lost by 25 for the 2nd week in a row, so at least they're not getting worse, I guess. But again, just a lot of different talk, just kind of depending on which side of the aisle you fall on in the fandom. But this is going to be a big game happening on Saturday night. It's happening right here on News 8, so be sure to tune into that. Just focusing on this game, I mean, X Factor. I mean, how does Michigan State kind of battle against Michigan, or how does Michigan not fall victim to being upset by their rival?
Well, I think for Michigan, it's just the same kind of, I don't really think there's a chance that they will or they shouldn't. I mean, on the road, it doesn't really matter what the situation is. Michigan's clearly been the better team. I was in Ann Arbor on Saturday for that Michigan-Washington game, and that second half, that was the best I think that Underwood has looked since he's been there. I think that he was able to finally put together a complete pass, or a complete half, with some great drives and passes. He looked way more on target. Michigan receivers weren't dropping the ball like they were again in the first half. It felt like in the first half when that game was 7-7, the crowd was getting restless. It was like, how is this still this close? Like, Michigan has dominated this half, like in the stat sheet, and they were able to put together a good half. So I expect Michigan to carry that into this game. I think that was huge for them to play that way going into that last game. Sherman Moore said in a press conference this week that he doesn't want any of the off the field stuff to affect this game. Just wants to go in and get out. We'll see how that works out. But yeah, for Michigan State, it's hard to imagine. I mean, Michigan could play their worst game, but it's just hard to imagine that they could win right now, because if there is any game, this would be the one, right? This would be the one where they would turn it around and like not turn it around, but they would like find the energy to maybe beat Michigan because they hate Michigan. But yeah, it's hard to imagine right now with how it's going there for Jonathan Smith. And I think I'm gonna be honest, I think it's very unfair to him. This is only his second year, but that's just the way that it works in college football nowadays. Like, he's got to figure it out, and if he can't win games like this one, especially with how bad it's already been, I think kicking the field goal at the end of that game was the real thing that
oh my God,
the real thing that killed Michigan State. Yeah. So that I think that's the real thing that's put the fans down on him. So we'll see if he's able to figure it out.
Yeah.
But sorry,
you're killing me.
Dean, real quick before you go.
That was so frustrating to me.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing? You're down by 28 points. You're trying to cover the spread. Like, I know that's not what they're thinking, but like, just go for the touchdown. Go for it. Like, there's no. What's the sense of making?
It's ridiculous.
Kicking a field goal right
like,
there.
what are you trying to do? Like, the only thing I can think is a positive spin, maybe to like put points on the board or something like that. To like, I don't know, send your team to the locker room more happy. It's clearly not going well now for them. You got to try to score touchdowns. I don't know if anything could have fixed it though. To be fair,
right. I think we have two teams, guys, who are going two different directions, right? I think. Michigan's obviously, coming off a really big win, and Michigan State is just kind of wallowing in, despair right now, right? I see Jonathan Smith making it through this year, but I don't see him coming back next year. All right, then that's just going to be that's my take on that. I don't think he is the guy, like, personality wise. I've kind of heard some things about the way he kind of interacts with players. He's just, I don't know, he's kind of not a goofy guy. He's just, I don't know. It's just hard to explain, but obviously something's, not a good fit, I think, with him in Michigan State.
Yeah, in Michigan, the win over Washington, it kind of felt like going into that game, either team that won was going to kind of go towards the direction where maybe they could still make a push for the playoff. I think that's probably the direction you were talking about that Michigan's going in. Yes. I think that's like the way that they're going right now, to where they have an easier schedule until it gets to Ohio State. So that they should be locked in for this game. Can't imagine they're not, but man, Jonathan Smith at Michigan State needs something. So.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
What's the spread?
Yeah, spread is 13.5. Oh. I was going to bring that up to you guys.
I better get on that right now.
It's on the road, though. So
it is on the road.
If they get 4 points, then you would think it'd be 17.5 if it was at home for Michigan.
Do you think Michigan covers it? Do you think that's a pretty good spread? Do you think Michigan State maybe keeps it a little bit closer?
No. See, this is the thing with Michigan State. Every week, I want to think they're going to make it closer, but they don't. And this is like a rivalry game. But Michigan is like the past how many years since Mel Tucker was there? Obviously, before everything went wrong, they had the game with Ken Walker where they won that game, and they still seem to keep other games close. It's like you think that Michigan State's going to keep. It feels like the rivalry hasn't been as important to Michigan State since the whole Mel Tucker thing went down. Right. Like they just haven't had the same push in the locker room that game means more than other games. So maybe they'll find that this week, and maybe that'll change. I'm not saying that Michigan necessarily has made it that much more important either, but Michigan's teams are better on the field. I mean, last year was their year to get them, really. When coming from Michigan State, when they had Davis Warren at quarterback. And
it was competitive for the most part, wasn't it?
It was. 24-17 was the final.
Yes.
And they were in that game, but that was just two really bad football teams playing in my opinion. Michigan is a team with talent. They have a lot more talent than Michigan State. it's hard to. I think they could cover the 13.5 for sure.
Yep. And Michigan State's defense is so bad.
Yeah.
All right. They are. I see Michigan win by 3 touchdowns.
That's the thing. It's like the defense. Is so
Like, I
bad.
really do. It's so bad.
But Michigan's offense has made life hard on themselves sometimes. That's the one thing. The only thing that scares me about this game is sometimes they do that. Like
yeah,
the
if they
first
can find
half,
some consistency.
I don't think Washington's defense was like that great either, and Michigan just kept getting down the field and finding a way to stall out a drive, whether it was a penalty or it was another turnover. They just have to avoid that kind of stuff, and they'll probably win this game easily. But that's much easier said than done on the road.
Well, either way, it's going to be an exciting game. Again, that Michigan State game is happening this Saturday night right here on News 8. It's always great, no matter what the game entails, but it's always great just to have these rivalries, and that's why we're so glad to also be talking about the fact that Ferris State is playing host to Grand Valley State this Saturday as well. Guys, that's going to be an awesome game. Again, Ferris State has just been dominating teams this year. I mean, before that last game, I think we were talking about it. They had outscored opponents by over 200 points to nothing.
Yeah.
It was like 201 to nothing, something crazy like that.
That's what it was.
So they're just been on a tear. And Grand Valley State coming off a loss to Saginaw Valley. I mean, they are looking to get their season back on track. Both teams ranked right now. But again, it's just great to see this kind of level of intensity and maybe a smaller scale a little bit. But again, those fans still show up and just love watching some really competitive football. And that's what we're probably going to be in store for again on Saturday.
Yeah, there's been some great games like in that rivalry between Grand Valley State and Ferris State through the years. You know, and a lot of times it's the winner of that game kind of goes on to compete for a national championship.
Exactly.
And you've seen Ferris obviously win 3 of the last 4 national championships. So, you know, this one's always circled on the calendar for both teams. You know, I know that Ferris State's president, I think Bill Pink is his name. He has basically invited every media and everybody to come out to showcase exactly what Ferris can do. And they are, you know, like Phil said, they are a dominant team, offensively and defensively. And they, you know, they look like they're on track to win another national championship. Tony Anise has done a great job, obviously, with that program. You know, maybe Michigan State will be calling them soon. Who knows? You know, but like, you know, yeah, there's not much you can say about, you know, Ferris State just bringing in dudes who just go out and play hard and, you know, are very, very skilled athletes. So, yeah, I think this is going to go Ferris State's way. You know, like you said, you know, obviously Grand Valley coming off a tough loss, but obviously, you know, both teams are going to play hard being in that Bone Anchor Classic.
Anchor Bone Classic. That's it. Yes. This is for Ferris and Grand Valley. This is always a good one. I've actually covered the past 2, and Ferris has just found a way to win them each. Some guy named Trinidad Shambliss. I don't know if you guys have heard of him.
Yeah.
He led him
He's
last
doing pretty
year.
good right now.
He's been playing at an SEC school. Almost beat Georgia this past weekend. So that is we need to talk about that at some point because that is one of the most insane stories out there right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were able to win last year, and it's crazy to talk about that and then see like that game was competitive last year with that guy at quarterback. But things change quickly. But yeah, no, it's been an unusual, uncharacteristic couple of losses for Grand Valley. I feel like they've been undefeated the past years going in this game as well, right there with Ferris. But yeah, it definitely feels like Ferris is the favorite, and you want to think there's a chance for a letdown, but it just I don't see it. No. It's very tough to picture a Tony Anise led team having a letdown in this kind of game. He has them ready. He's very passionate about this rivalry, and he'll let you know that. So yeah, it's definitely one that I expect Ferris to be able to take. They've just been so dominant this year. Again, they do it every single year, and that's why they've been the national championship as much as they have. When you think of Division II football, you think of Ferris, and Grand Valley is usually mentioned in that light too. And you think about both those teams being at the top of it. It's pretty crazy that we have 2 of them locally here in this area at the top of that division. Yeah,
and it just makes the rivalry so much more, especially when both teams are doing so well. I mean, like we said, Grand Valley's already lost 2 games on the season, but they're still ranked. They still have a path to the playoffs and everything. They want to get this big time win, and again, snap that long winning streak for Ferris State as well. So again, the Anchor Bone Classic is going to be an exciting game this Saturday. Got the name right this time. So again, very excited about that one. We're going to have full recaps as well over on woodtv.com as well whenever that game does wrap up on Saturday. Gentlemen, we've got just a few minutes left. Really want to quickly talk about the fact that we've got World Series baseball to talk about. Again, we're going to have the Toronto Blue Jays and the Los Angeles Dodgers in the World Series. Just real quickly, guys, notes, things you're going to keep an eye out for, and maybe a prediction or two as far as how you see this World Series going.
It was devastating for my girlfriend last night. She's a Mariners fan, so that was it was tough. So I watched a lot of that game. Actually, I went to a friend's to watch the Lions. Then I was driving home, and when I got home, I checked the score before I went in the house. I was like, oh boy, it was like right after the George Springer home run. So it's absolutely brutal. I mean, she gave the Tigers pain just a few weeks or a week before that. So had to have the same experience last night as we did here. This World Series, I feel like the Blue Jays winning. If you're a Dodgers hater and you don't want them to win, I feel like that's probably the team you wanted to play in this, because the Mariners have just absolutely unloaded every single player that they have, going back to the Tigers series when they had the 15-inning game to end it, and then just having a 7-game series here. So I feel like it's a better matchup with Toronto, but. Yeah, it's hard to imagine anybody beating the Dodgers right now. I mean, what is like the $415 million payroll against the, I think it's like the $280 million payroll. So there's a lot of money in both these teams, but the Dodgers are on another planet of what they've been able to pay people. So it's hard for me to imagine anything other than like a 4-1, 4-2 type win for the Dodgers.
Listen, when you have a pitcher who hits 3 home runs in a game, records 10 strikeouts, are you messing with me? Like I just, what an unbelievable feat, by Shohei in that game last week. But yeah, I don't think
it's so casual too.
It is so casual.
You just expect it.
There's no stopping the Dodgers. I think there's Dodgers in 5. I think Toronto might win 1 game, but I think Dodgers in 5, and they go back to back, and they make Laney Gerber really happy.
All right, well, great stuff, guys. We're going to be keeping a close eye on that, as well as everything that's going to be happening this weekend. Busy weekend for sports, but we wouldn't have it any other way. Andy and Dean, thank you both so much for stopping by. We'll see you again next week.